Okay, so we have, I think we have 16 people in the room. I think we should probably go ahead and introduce ourselves. It might take a couple minutes, but it'd be good for everybody to know who's here. So I'll go first. My name is Adam Rosa. I'm with Collabo Planning and Design, and we are the planning coordinators that are working with the community and working with the city and the housing authority on the Choice Neighborhood Plan. So I will pass it over to Andrea next, please.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. My name is Andrea Gonzalez. I am a member of Collabo Planning. I am assisting in the community facilitation and engagement part of the project, and it is my pleasure to be here with you guys today. Next, I'm going to pass it on to Patrick. Hi, Patrick.
Hi, thanks everyone. Thanks for coming. I'm Patrick Brunner. I'm with Collabo as well, and just excited to be part of the team. With that, I will pass it to Terry. Let's see.
Or how about Dom Johnson?
There we go.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dominique Lazo Johnson. I like to go by Dom Johnson. I work with the city of Fayetteville as a community relations specialist. I am right now assisting Adam on the Choice Neighborhood Initiative. And nice to meet everyone. And I'm going to send it over to my manager. She's new, everyone. Her name is Michelle. So there you go, Michelle.
Thank you, Tom. Good morning, everybody. I'm Michelle Lindo. I'm the newest member for Economic and Community Development. I'm the Neighborhood Engagement Manager. I'm helping or trying to help Dom, but learning from Dom really about the Choice Neighborhood Initiative. And I'm really glad to be here. I'm excited about the plans that we have, and I'm excited to learn from you as well. And I will pass it over to Terry Thomas. Hey, Terry, I haven't seen you in a long time. Terry, we're just doing introductions. They just want you to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Terry Thomas. Good to see you, Michelle.
All right, why don't we go next to, I'm just going to go down my list here. Let's go to Dino next, please.
Good morning. Is my microphone on? My name is Dino Hondros. I'm a real estate broker here locally with Franklin Johnson Real Estate. Been doing commercial real estate for about 23 years.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Let's go next to Ms. Newton, Devon Newton, please.
It's Devin Newton.
Devin, sorry.
It's okay. And I am the community services manager for the county community development department, and also the current chair of the Fayetteville Redevelopment Commission.
Thank you for being here. Okay, let's go next to Douglas Garrett. Douglas was so excited to be at the meeting today. He joined like 15 minutes early.
Yes, sir. How's it going? Good morning to everyone. My name is Douglas Garrett. I'm the owner of Fresh Start. It's located on Murchison Road, 1908 Murchison Road, and I'm excited to be here this morning.
Thanks for being here, Mr. Garrett. Okay, let's see. Let's go to Elaine next, please.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Elaine Murray. I am a business owner looking to relocate her business in the Murchison Road area.
That's great. What kind of business do you run, Elaine?
I'm a wholesaler in retail.
Fantastic. Thanks for being here. Okay, we have up next Jerome J.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jerome Johnson. I'm a graduate from Fayetteville State Social Work Department, and I'm just pleased to see this collaboration going in process right now. And I like to just stay informed about what's going on in the quality of care of the citizens here.
Fantastic. Thanks for being here. Okay, people are joining up fast and furious, so I got to keep track of who's gone. Let's go. Well, we have Johnette Henderson. She's one of our community ambassadors. She texted me saying she wasn't going to be able to speak for about 20 minutes, but just wanted to recognize Jeanette being here. How about let's go to Navaya Adams, please.
Good morning. I am Navier Adams. I am born and raised in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I have several businesses in Fayetteville. I'm also a Eastman graduate and currently a Fayetteville State student. So usually every day, all day, I'm on Murchison Road. And I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Fantastic. And I apologize for mispronouncing your name. Okay, let's go next to Sherry, please. Sherry?
Hi, I'm Sherry Lar. I'm with Townsend Real Estate, and I'm very happy to be able to be part of something that's going to be so beneficial to so many people.
Thanks for being here, Sherry. Okay, let me see. Sophia, peace. Sophia? Sophia, I think you're still on mute. All right, I think Sophia might have turned her camera off accidentally.
That's Dr. Sophia Pierce. So if we can just circle back to her a little bit in a moment.
Yep, we will. Okay, let's go next to Susie, please.
Hi, guys. I am Susie Roboski. I am the executive director here at Seed in downtown Fayetteville. We were the program that partnered with the city of Fayetteville to do the bridge loan program during COVID. And we are also a nonprofit here that has worked in the community for over 30 years. Anywhere from doing housing to we kind of got away from housing, but we are very focused on micro lending to everyone, and also to starting small businesses and doing the education and technical assistance for helping people build their small businesses. So Elaine, I wrote your name down that I'm going to communicate with you to see what we can't do to help you.
Perfect. I love it. We're already making connections here. Okay, let's go next to Dr. Dennis Corbin, please.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Dennis Corbin. I am an associate professor at Fayetteville State University in the School of Social Work. Recently, well, not recently, but I've been back in Fayetteville since 2012. After living in various parts of the country, I grew up in Robinson County, which is a couple of counties over. And I'm very interested in seeing how the Murchison Road is going to come alive. I've been following the conversation. I've been looking because I go on Murchison Road almost every day for work purposes. And I'm just excited to see the change that's coming. And I can see it starting right there at that bridge. So I said, okay, it's exciting. And I certainly want to be a part of the conversation.
Thank you so much for being here. Looks like Dr. Sophia is off of mute. You want to say hello?
Right. Okay. I'm Sophia Pierce, and I'm a property owner, and I have a business on Murchison Road, and I'm pleased to be a part of this group.
Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about your business?
My business is mental health services for adults with mental illness and disabilities, mental disabilities. We provide group homes, and outpatient services.
Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Is there anyone that I missed? We have a pretty good list here. I think we got everybody, but Devon, did we get Devon Newton? Oh yeah. Okay, we got you. Sorry. Yeah, I think we're good. All right. So what we're going to do here today is this is really the second part of our working group structure, working group meetings around housing and commercial development. But before I go on, I wanted to mention 3 different things that are going on that relate to this topic. So the first is that we are holding a virtual Murchison Corridor Business Expo, and this is through the city of Fayetteville. It is going to be next Monday, February 14th. And you can find all the information on our website at murchisonchoice.com. Andrea, if you can put our website in the chat, that would be great. And that will be an online meeting where existing and prospective businesses can learn about really resources and tools from the city that they can utilize. So we're hoping to get as many people signed up for that as possible. And again, that's going to be Monday, March 14th at 10 a.m. The second thing that's going on is we have a market study underway. And it's really a two-part market study. It's the first part is looking at the essentially the residential or housing market in the Murchison community. And that's looking at both the supply and demand, but also creating recommendations for how we can tailor our plan to the current market conditions. So that's currently underway. We hope to have the first kind of initial findings from the study probably within the next month. The second part of that is a commercial market study that's again looking at the commercial viability and thinking about what types of commercial uses could be potentially recruited to the corridor. So both of those things are going on. The third thing is just our team. I wanted to just let everybody know our team is actually going to be in Fayetteville on Wednesday through Friday of this week. And we're taking a look at a handful of what we have identified as key opportunity sites for new housing within the planning area. So we're going to be doing site visits. We're having like kind of a internal housing workshop where we're starting to kind of sketch out ideas. Because we ultimately have the goal of replacing the 60 units at the Murchison Townhouse property, which is the public housing site owned by Fayetteville Metropolitan Housing Authority. We can either do that on site in the same location, or we can do that elsewhere in the community or in other areas of opportunity. But we need to do it in a mixed income setting, which really means that ultimately we would love to be able to build not 60 units of housing, but over 100 units of housing with a range of incomes. But understanding that we have a one-for-one replacement of the public housing units as part of that mix. So we're looking at different options and kind of putting pen to paper on that. So this is all very timely, and we're going to take your input into consideration as we go forward. But I wanted to start the presentation really looking at what the outcomes of the first working group meeting. So we had a discussion, and we talked about what is working, what is not working in the community. And the first topic around housing, things that were noted by the group, was that it's early. I'm still waking up here. Participation in the Choice Neighborhood Plan and community engagement is working very well. The Murchison Townhouse property, while it's 40 to 45 years old, it's still generally well maintained and looks nice according to the residents that live there. It's not to say that it couldn't be greatly improved by building new housing. People noted that the Elliott Circle area is nice and generally looks neat. Current city, there are significant current city opportunities around housing, but getting the word out is the challenge to the rest of the community about the resources that are available. And then what's not working, people noted code enforcement, better regulation, especially relating to kind of slumlord landlords, abandoned homes, just general kind of street trash in certain locations. The feeling that there's increasing homelessness in the corridor, and obviously this is a bigger social issue overall, but it seems like it's very apparent in terms of people who live in the community. There's difficulty getting the word out on resources. There's eyesore issues like parking on lawns and just kind of quality of life, things like that. People talked about Jasper and Murchison, that area is kind of feels like an eyesore. It doesn't feel safe walking by that part of the community. Elliott Street, another area where there's problems. Predatory lenders looking for a quick profit. So the signs that you see about selling your homes for cash and that kind of thing. High housing vacancies overall in the community. And then for commercial development, people said, what is working, what was working, that historically there was a good mix of neighborhood businesses and resources. That doesn't mean that those are all there today, obviously. New businesses and services in Bronco Square seem to generally be working pretty well. The landlords made it easy for small businesses to be a part of that shopping center. You have the connection to FSU, which helps to support. There's general proximity and accessibility to other parts of Fayetteville, especially downtown. People talked about the farmers market was a really nice kind of local amenity in that it acted as an incubator for small businesses. And let's see what else. So just generally a mix of small businesses, new and old, and locally owned and operated. What is not working so well, generally residents need to travel far to get certain businesses and resources, and that they rely on the bus system, which is difficult for many people to get around. The lack of fresh food, that we're in a food desert here. There's generally a higher commercial vacancy rate, and a lot of the spaces that are available are not code compliant, or they're unaffordable, or they don't really fit the needs of emerging businesses. Food wise, people say really nothing but fast food, although I do know that, there are a few other options on the corridor. And again, not enough information for commercial businesses to tap into resources. And that kind of speaks to the event that we're having next week around the Business Expo. So before I go on, I know there were some of you that weren't at our first meeting, and I just wanted to give everybody a chance to weigh in on this, what's working, what's not working. And if you have anything you'd like to add, you can go ahead and unmute, or you can put it in the chat. I see a few messages already talking about code enforcement, et cetera. So yeah, if you're interested in adding to this particular poster, please feel free to jump in.
Well, one of the things that I noticed, this is Dr. Corbin, you talked about putting the information out there. Well, I'm also certain that when you're putting the information out there, you might put the information out there, but I don't know how to work through the process. So when you're saying putting the information out there, it would be helpful to have someone to work through the process with them. Example, if you're doing your taxes, you got somebody that's going to sit there and walk you through getting your taxes completed. So putting the information out there, it can be a bit overwhelming to some people, but also having someone to walk them through the process would certainly be an advantage.
That's a great point. And as a small business owner, I know how difficult it is to jump into something where you don't know all the procedures and processes. So yeah, thank you for that. Anyone else have any thoughts on this so far?
Yes, this is Terry Thomas.
Go ahead.
One of the things where you have the code enforcement and better regulations, I know I do fix it a lot in terms of the app that they have with the city when you see code violations and that kind of thing, where they're very quick to close them out. Like, I don't know if they're really going in and doing what they say they're doing. And then you have to repeatedly, I've actually made up aliases to keep complaining to be able to get them to actually get a resolution to what's going on in the neighborhood. Because I also live in Broadale, so I live in the Murchison Road community. So a lot of times I kind of spearheaded because there's a lot of older members in our neighborhood to try to keep the properties, at least neat and orderly to keep the neighborhood up to snuff.
That's interesting. So you're saying that you'll put in an issue and then you feel like it's kind of gets closed out before it really gets dealt with, and then you have to keep going back and doing it over.
Yes, or they'll push you to another department, and that department is like, you should have went to this department. So it's just like that round around where nobody is taking ownership of doing it, and then nothing happens.
Right. Okay. Thanks for sharing that.
Adam,
Yes.
I'd like to respond to Ms. Thomas with that regarding that concern. One thing about code enforcement is If there are multiple complaints on the same property for the same thing, if there is already an existing case going on, the subsequent complaints are going to be closed down. Because we can't have multiple complaints for the same issue at one property. If it's a substandard condition issue, such as the exterior of the facade has got rotten wood or peeling paints or broken windows, things like that, that property owner will have 60 days to bring the property into compliance. Of course, that would depend upon if we actually are able to make contact with the owner. Sometimes there are, and I don't know which specific buildings Ms. Thomas is talking about, and I haven't worked in the Broadell area with regard to code enforcement, so I'm not able to speak to those particulars. But sometimes we aren't able to make contact with the owner. They could be heirs or something like that. And so the process is going to exceed 60 days. If we are in fact capable of making contact with the owner and there is no response, the next step would be for us to issue a civil penalty, which is $200 a day for a period of 10 days. They would then get 60 days from the issuance of that penalty to abate the violation. If the violation is not abated, well, the next step would be for us to move to environmental court. Since COVID, and even prior to COVID, environmental court is, I'm sure many of you are aware, it's an opportunity for us to get the owners of the properties into a place to basically mitigate what's happening and to request for compliance. I have been in court and the property owner never complied, even though the judge said they had to. At that situation, they were found guilty of a misdemeanor violation, which of course it's on their record, and they had to pay court costs, and that was the end of it. So code enforcement is definitely not the end all be all with regard to issues for substandard or overgrowth or junk vehicles or things of that nature. It's just a tool that the city tries to use. Prior to this year, actually it's gone away a couple of years now, we had something called the RAMP program, Rental Action Management Program, where we were trying to hold property owners responsible for what was going on their properties, especially if it was a rental property. Unfortunately, that went away. State legislatures knocked it down. So now what we're left with is dealing with nuisance properties, which basically means if the property has 4 violations and they're specific violations, within a period of 24 months, they enter a nuisance program, they have to pay, a large fine and things of that nature. What we're finding is a lot of properties are owned by businesses or people who have, many rental properties, and the fines that we're issuing them doesn't really faze them. So this is really a issue that it's an ongoing, it's a serious issue, and we have to together collectively try to find a way to change how we do what we do. But I do know that Priscilla Lindbaum is the code enforcement administrator in that particular area, and she is one of the highest case managing personnel in the code enforcement unit. She takes her job very seriously, and she would not close a case if there were a violation present. Oftentimes, citizens may view an issue as a violation. However, it's technically not a violation when we look at the code. But I'm available to talk offline if anybody wants to talk about that, and I hope that information was helpful.
Thank you, Michelle, it was.
Thank you, Michelle.
Ms. Lindo, this is Dr. Corbin. That information was quite helpful. If I understand you correctly, it sounds like there's really, if the process is played out, there's really nothing that the city can really do to property owners. Is there any way, and I heard in your last comment that there were property owners of multiple properties. Is there any way to tie that one property that's being ignored to all of the other properties in the city? So when it comes time to recertify or get a new license or update their license, that's being held up because of this one property. Has that ever been explored?
You don't have to have a license to own a property and rent it out. And we don't tie back properties to other properties. Even in environmental court, that's not something that we do.
Oh, okay.
It's definitely something that could possibly be explored, I'm sure. But I don't think constitutionally that we could do that.
Okay. And the other one, in reference to the young lady's comments about having to repost violations, is there some way that when someone posts a violation or start the process of a violation of a particular property, that if someone else comes along and want to post something about that same property, a prompt will come up and says that this is a case that's already open and this is where it's at in the process. So that person will walk away knowing, okay, well, there's already a case open on this and it's working its way through the process, as opposed to just not getting a response and then people calling over and over and over and over again to try to get stuff. Because I just heard you say, if 5 people call about the same property, 4 people won't get a response. They'll just get, it's already open, but they won't know that. So then they walk away feeling that, okay, nobody's hearing me, as opposed to if those 4 people that file on the same property will get a response electronically that says, hey, this property has already been tagged and we're in the this is where we're in the process of going through that process you outlined.
So what Ms. Thomas was referring to is the app, Fix-It app. And that does not have a prompt that would alert the complainant of any other violations on the property, because basically it's a reporting funnel. So the information has to be disseminated from the 4331 FAY or the Fix-It app to the proper department. It would then go to our code enforcement, the secretary, who would enter the case, and then it would trickle down to the actual inspector. So in order to find out what's really going on, a person might have to contact the secretary, who can research the property, or directly contact the inspector. Priscilla is an amazing person. She's a very patient person. She works in the Broadell area in the Murchison Road corridor. She would have no problem with people contacting her to find out the status of a property. But unfortunately, Fix-It is just an app to funnel complaints through the city and not provide the updates.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you for all this information. It's really helpful. So I'm going to kind of move us forward here. I wanted to share with you some of the desired outcomes from the first working group meeting. So related to housing, people talked about a desired outcome would be a detailed phasing schedule for public housing redevelopment or reinvestment, what that really looks like over time. Regulations and enforcement, we just talked about that. Greater resident participation in existing Fayetteville Metropolitan Housing Authority programs. No slumlords, pride in the neighborhood, beautification. More home ownership was an outcome that people mentioned. Home repair assistance programs. Making predatory practices not profitable anymore, building a community in excellence, quality materials and design, keeping money in the community, heightened local contracting requirements, minority contractors and builders, and that the Murchison corridor needs to establish affordable housing and activities for seniors. And we know that there is a new senior community center that's being planned on the corridor near Fayetteville State at Filter Plant Road. So that hopefully could be a new hub for senior activities. But I'd love to hear more about the senior housing, and I think our market study will also help to inform that. And then in terms of commercial development, people talked about bringing healthcare businesses to the area with focus on Black women's health. Establishing stronger business connections with FSU, commercial corridor revitalization, opening more businesses. That's kind of a goal or an outcome overall. Groceries and fresh food is available in the neighborhood. Reliable and accessible public transit. Enhanced look for local businesses, attracting new diverse businesses and services. Youth-focused businesses. That's something that beyond the fast food restaurants, probably don't have anything like that today. Showcase what we have to promote new development. understand the commercial space that's available and accessible, more attractive business facades. And then this was kind of tangentially related, so I kind of put it in a different color, but this was talking about Fort Bragg and reentry programs related to that. Uniform design standards, that goes back to the attractiveness of businesses, and then creating FSU employment pipeline in the community. So these are all desired outcomes that have been established by this group. So what I want to do next is kind of get into a more of an interactive part of the meeting here. And so I'm going to stop sharing on this guy. So we're going to use this online polling tool. It's called Mentimeter. And there's a couple different ways that you all can be part of this. So I'm going to try to start it up here. And I'm inviting all participants. So you should see a little pop-up, and you can add Mentimeter to your Zoom, and it'll be like a little add-on that'll help you vote on things. Another way you can do it is putting a link in the chat. If you go to that link, it'll allow you to vote on the poll. I'm going to do it again because somebody just joined. So the link in the chat will allow you to vote on the poll. The other thing that you can do, so I'm going to be sharing my screen here, and you're going to be able to see the results. Let's see here. Okay, so it looks like it's working for people. So you should see the first question that says, who's going to win the Super Bowl, right? And there's 3 options. So you can choose your option. This is just kind of our icebreaker. I just want to get everybody comfortable with it. If you're not able to vote or do the polling, we'll have the opportunity. You can either unmute when we look at the results and share your thoughts, or you can put some comments in the chat related to the results. So we will give everybody a minute or two to get up and running on that. Let me know if you have any questions. Looks like it's working. We've got 8 people in there so far voting. Oh, at least one Bengals fan in the house. Is anybody having trouble getting on or being able to vote? Okay, looks like it's working for the majority of people here. We have 13 people so far. We got 5 that think the Rams are going to take the trophy. We have 2 that with the Bengals, and the majority of those that voted only care about the commercials or maybe the food or hanging out with family on Sunday. All right, awesome. Well, let's go to the first real question here. Okay, so the first question is, how would you rank the following housing strategies in terms of priority? So there's 10 different things here. We know that they're all important. These are all ideas that have come from the community, either from our larger community meetings, from our conversations that we've had through our community ambassadors, or from the first working group meeting, where you all helped to identify some strategies or project ideas. So you're going to be ranking these in terms of importance from your perspective. The first one is enhancing code enforcement efforts, and we had a pretty deep conversation about that already. The second would be expanding first-time homebuyer programs and workshops. The third would be developing a strategic homeless housing initiative. The fourth would be additional rental housing in that area, which would be affordable or mixed income, including new senior housing. The fifth would be trying to encourage additional homeowner housing, either affordable or mixed income in the neighborhood. The sixth would be an expanded home rehab program and establishing a tool lending library where neighbors could come and borrow saws and equipment to work on their homes. The seventh would be establishing a community land trust. So that's a essentially it's an organization of local residents that essentially have shared ownership in property, and through that organization they're able to sell homes at a fixed rate, at an affordable rate, to homeowners that qualify. And then those homeowners, essentially, when they would go to sell their home, would have to sell it at a fixed rate. So it's a way that potentially keeps housing affordable. And we can go into more detail on that if anyone is interested. The eighth would be developing a local employee housing initiative with Fayetteville State University. So what that would entail would really be enticing Fayetteville staff and others that are related to the university, faculty, to live within the neighborhood. So it could be a rental rebate or a kind of a first-time home buyer loan or something like that through the university. Let's see, they're kind of shuffling around on me, but let's see, we got establish community-based development organizations. So those would be local nonprofits that are focused on building housing in the community, particularly affordable housing related to the needs of the neighborhood. Did I miss anything here? Expanding first-time home buyer programs and workshops. And lastly, we had an idea about creating an education campaign around the cash for homes issue, that the predatory kind of environment that we have, and really creating a strong campaign to let homeowners know the ins and outs of that kind of situation. So there's a lot there to kind of think through. We're going to give everybody, let's give everybody about 5 minutes to take a look at that list, and you can start to see how these are stacking up. But this will help us establish a sense of higher level priority projects that are coming out of this group. So this is really an important step in the process. All right, about 2 more minutes. All right. Well, we will keep the poll open if you're still working on it, or if you had to drop off the call, you can come back and vote. I just want to hear some feedback on this. So I saw Mario, you had a comment in the chat. I was wondering if you wanted to weigh in on your thoughts.
For sure. Like I'm really excited to see the second place vote there, the Established Community Land Trust. I think that's a really interesting idea that I've seen work elsewhere. But as impactful as that would be, it's really going to take number 7, a community-based development organization, to sort of put the legs and the wheels on something like a CLT. And so, and then number 5 is also hugely important, but that's kind of what number 2 is. I mean, there's different types of programs for first-time homeowners. So, you know, just because as I'm working through this, a lot of this stuff sort of, like I said, just kind of feeds into one another.
Yeah.
You know, I think that number 9 in particular is another one that I think would be hugely impactful to kind of redefine the Murchison Road area, you know, as kind of like a place where, you know, the young professionals at FSU are living. And then, you know, if you want to be like that or want to be around that, you know, come on down. But that can't happen until, you know, a lot of the stuff that we have on top. So as much as I like number 9, and I'd put that closer to the top, it's really more of like a sequence of events thinking that kind of took over as I was, you know, getting kind of in between 2 good things.
Yeah, that's a really good point, that these project ideas build upon each other. So I just wanted to share the top 3 just in case. Oh, they're shifting around, just in case anyone isn't able to see the screen. So number 1, it looks like we have additional rental housing, affordable mixed income, including senior housing. Number 2, we had to expand home rehab program and establish a tool lending library. Number 3, establish a community land trust. So those are the top 3 out of the 10. But I'd love to hear more about why people voted the way they did. Anyone want to jump in?
I liked Mario's way of thinking, and I voted similarly to how he did. My first was to establish additional rental housing and affordable mixed income. I feel like that would satisfy an immediate need right now. Then it was establish a community-based development organization. Again, because my third choice is establish a community land trust. You can't have one without the other, in my opinion. And I feel like the development organizations would help those people, you know, decide where's the prime area to, you know, establish that land trust. And then my 4th was expand first-time home buyer programs and workshops. I know that, you know, there's one thing to provide the homes and everything, but if people don't know how to take care of them, they don't know how to purchase those homes, then you're going to have the same issue where you have outsiders coming in, purchasing up the land, and then basically selling it back to you double the price. And then the 5th would be to expand home rehab program and establish a tool lending library. That's kind of what Ms. Newton was speaking about their county having something where their code enforcement works with their community development department, and they try to help the residents fix their issues first before they find them. So I think that would be a really good initiative. Additional homeowner housing, that comes, of course, after the education. Enhancing code enforcement. Once you've purchased a home, then we need someone to make sure that those homes stay nice. You know, you don't want to see a situation where someone gets in the home or another slum landlord, they purchase all the homes and then the homes are no longer being taken care of. And then everything else kind of just fell underneath that, you know, as far as like develop a strategic homeless housing initiative, that was ranked about the same. And FSU employee housing, that was lower on the list. I feel as if we add in additional rental housing that was affordable, mixed income, same thing with the homes, they'll come. So that's kind of why I ranked that lower to the bottom.
Thanks, Tom.
This is Terry Thomas again.
Sure, go ahead.
I actually moved back home from Raleigh to coming back into Broadale neighborhood. And one of the biggest things to get this whole priority list going is if we don't get the people in the neighborhoods to step up and do their part, all this additional new stuff is not going to be worth a hill of beans because everything else is going to make it look bad. And that's the thing that I see coming back from Raleigh in the neighborhoods where we've taken such pride in the Broadale Murchison Road corridor, that it's people that are coming in that they have no desire on buying. They just have a rental mentality. And the people that have purchased the homes, they know that, in which they're jacking up the prices in terms of rent. So a lot of times there may just need to be some type of initiative on what a proper neighborhood needs to look like, because some people don't know. They've never lived in the neighborhood or had that type of pride or sense of pride in a neighborhood. In terms of the home and housing initiative, what I would really like to see is for people to ask the homeless what they need and what they want. Because a lot of times we're throwing shelters and these types of things and day programs without finding out what is it they really want and need. And I think that would be something major to look at before we develop a strategic homeless housing initiative, to figure out what it is that the homeless really want. So those are two things I just wanted to point out.
That's a great point. And I just wanted to share one of the top ranked project that came out of our equity and inclusion working group yesterday was establishing a community cleanup program. I think that kind of goes to what you're talking about with working with the existing residents to really help clean up the neighborhood before we promote new housing, I guess, in different parts. So thanks for sharing that.
Thanks.
Adam,
Yes, go ahead.
this is Susie. I have a question to ask, and maybe I find it interesting that FSU has such a large part in that corridor, but they rank so low in having any part of housing development. And I'm just curious if it's just for my own edification, just curious as maybe somebody's opinion about why maybe employee housing from some, professors at FSU or some of the other faculty and staff at FSU is not necessarily a priority to have that community of FSU to grow even larger in that area. It's just interesting to me that they rank so low on this scale here.
Yeah. Does anyone want to? I think we have at least one representative from FSU, including maybe a student or two on the line. Does anyone want to weigh in on that?
Well, I think with me being a student, I would say that I think leadership. I think with this new chancellor, I've seen him more business minded. I know that Bronco Square was never fully owned by Fayetteville State until this year. So I think that with the new chancellor, I believe that his leadership will bring more value. I think more representation to Murchison Road in the corridor. So for my answer, I think that it was just leadership who didn't take that initiative in the past.
Thanks for sharing that. And yeah, I think one thing that we know that's also going on is FSU is embarking on a new master plan for the campus and for the area around campus. So we're hoping to work directly with them on kind of syncing up these bigger goals of the neighborhood with what they're looking at from like a facility and housing improvement around campus.
Can I answer?
Dom, why don't you go ahead? You can go next.
I just wanted to answer one more time to Ms. Susie's question. I ranked it lower again because once the rental homes and everything is there, they'll come. I don't foresee like students and the professors staying there long term. I see that as something that's more like a transitional stage for them. So I wasn't too focused on catering to that community, more as to like people that plan to be there long term and the residents that are kind of like already there, even though I know the ultimate goal is to like, build like a college type of environment. I just feel like that'll just come naturally.
Thanks for sharing that. I want to go to Ms. Newton because she's had her hand up for a little while.
Hey, yes, thanks. So I was just gonna point out, just from our experience in community development, is that I believe that the city has found that Cumberland County has a shortage of about 20,000 housing units. And so all of these strategies that increase the housing supply needs to be, it's like a multi-prong approach, and especially taking into account that we have so few affordable housing developers, and because affordable housing is not profitable to build, and especially with the construction costs that are going on right now, you know, we have been trying to get a project going for a while now, and we've had difficulty finding builders. So even though we want to increase the housing, there are realities that we're gonna have to come up with some interesting other strategies to make this happen. I don't know what that would be. I guess that's something that we're gonna have to come up with from this group.
That also sounds like an opportunity. If there's a lack of people that can build housing, that should be where people are being trained to be able to fill that gap and increase the pool of builders in the area that know how to build affordable housing. Thank you for sharing that.
I think too, Susie, moving back home, there's just not a lot of people, you know, Murchison Road has such a negative twang to it. When I moved home, because I moved home and I just remodeled my home. And those are some creative ways of doing things. You know, we talk about affordable housing, but a lot of those homes there, they have very good bones. So a lot of it's just pretty much gutting and revamping them. You know, that's what I decided to do instead of getting into a big mortgage somewhere else. But, you know, dispelling the myth of what Murchison Road is. You know, I've been there. I'm 52 and I moved away for college and then I came back. I've never had a break-in. You know, so a lot of the mindset when people are in Fayetteville and they think about Murchison Road with all these things that we're getting ready to create now, I think that would then in turn up employees wanting to say, hey, maybe I will want to stay here. Or, you know, once we kind of dispel the myth of what Murchison Road is, and not just because it's Murchison Road, but just the whole environment as a whole, it would create a different dynamic. So when people come to my house now, they're like, wow, you know, from the outside, it doesn't look like much, but on the inside, you revamped it, you know? So it's all about changing your mindset of what that is, you know? And I think that's one of the biggest issues.
Yeah, that's a huge point. And that's something that our history and equity and inclusion working group has also been tackling. How do we improve the appeal and the first impressions and what people think about the community through things like branding, festivals, historic districts. People talked about placemaking improvements at intersections where you would get to an intersection like you have in downtown Fayetteville, and you'd have public art and you'd have banners and things that really improve the curb appeal of the neighborhood. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I think my question kind of you made a great point, Terry, about, you know, improving the thought process there. And, you know, with FSU being what FSU is, you know, having your chancellor of a UNC system, you know, be right there in that be right there in that area, and your rest of your staff there, makes people proud of where they live. They're living next to the chancellor, you know, they're living right down the road next to the chancellor, the vice chancellor, or even, you know, there's lots of people that live over there. And I just think that some of that could appeal further on down the road to changing some of the images by, you know, it's the same way that you bring in an anchor tenant, right? into a commercial setting. You're almost kind of doing the same thing with the housing market, so that people see and know that someone else is also investing into that area. It's kind of interesting to me. that piece of it. So.
Well, if I may, this is Dr. Corbin. When I moved back to Fayetteville back in 2012 and was hired at Fayetteville State, one of the things that I did inquire about was housing and housing support. And unfortunately, they didn't have anything like that. But it was something that I was looking for. I was coming back from California, where they have a lot of housing and housing support for the universities and the university communities there. So unfortunately, they didn't have it at FSU. But I think the idea of having that, or even having it as a part of the onboarding at Fayetteville State with the new faculty and individuals that come on board, would certainly be an advantage, because that's what people tend to look for. And if the university's saying, hey, we are offering these kinds of incentives or this kind of housing in this area, it speaks volumes because the university is supporting it. And certainly growing up in the area, I remember way back when Murchison Road had an image. And I was really excited in the last couple of years to hear about this Murchison Road redevelopment, changing the image and stop calling it the Merc, but use the full name Murchison Road and those kind of things. And I've actually started engaging people and having conversations. And when they use the word Merc, I was like, no, call it Murchison Road, because we're moving away. Murchison Road is no longer the Merc. And I've seen it when it was the Merc. But again, I think I would love to see things like a PSA, a local PSA, in terms of the changes that are coming to Murchison Road. You have to start people to think about it. It used to be this, now it's this. For example, if you looked at old film of downtown Fayetteville and the way it is now, it excites people in terms of the change and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we can introduce that to the residents of the Murchison Road corridor to say, hey, this is, we all remember when, but this is where we're headed. And if you start to give them a vision, then you'll get more and more people excited about it. So.
Thanks for sharing that. Great
If I could
point.
jump in.
Yeah, go ahead.
And piggyback off of my colleague, Dr. Corbin. Nice to see you again. So I'm Wesley Fountain, Associate Vice Chancellor for Community Relations and Economic Development here at FSU. And we're going through a master planning process now, which we should be wrapping up later, probably later in the fall. We're kind of on the front end of that. But one of the strategic priorities we're looking at is the housing piece. And in particular, not just housing for our students, but housing for faculty, staff, and visitor professorship. As you all probably know, in this past legislative budget cycle, we were granted inclusion into what the state calls NC Promise. So what that does, it lowers tuition for our undergraduate students, $500 per semester. And it's been enacted at 3 other campuses for the past 3 or 4 years. And so we've seen double-digit increases amongst those other campuses. And so we're anticipating starting this fall, we'll see similar increases in our campus population. And so there's a critical need. We are already kind of flirting with the line of housing shortage here on campus, but with that influx, we're going to need a lot more housing. So we're not only looking at housing for our students here on campus, but we're looking at off-campus housing. And then also with that increase in student population, we're going to need more faculty and support staff. And so we're looking at affordable housing options for them as well. And so we've already kind of in a quiet phase been acquiring some properties, because as you probably could imagine, once we start publicizing that we're trying to do these things, especially off campus, then that drives up the housing prices. And we've seen that some, but we are moving in that direction and to the point of looking at affordable housing options for our faculty and staff.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I think that represents a tremendous opportunity here for both housing and commercial development overall, with the increasing enrollment, the increasing staff that could be living, working in the area. So yeah, we're excited to try to dovetail with the master plan and really develop strategies that can be sustainable for both processes going forward. All right, just want to give everybody just another minute or so to share their thoughts on this. We have one more poll that's related to commercial development. But before we go on, is there anyone else that would like to jump in? Okay, hearing none. All right, let's go to the next question. So this question, you should all see it. How would you rank the following commercial development strategies in terms of priority? And again, these all have come out of our community process and what we've been hearing. We have 9 choices currently. The first would be establishing or recruiting a bank or credit union. And again, it's something we know that used to exist in the corridor, and residents have spoken about the need. Number 2, this is the big one, definitely establish and recruit a grocery. And that could look a couple different ways. It could be more of a traditional full-scale grocery store, or it could be more of a cooperative grocery store model that's kind of owned and operated by the community. That takes a lot longer to get up and running, but I think we want to hear what your thoughts are. Establishing and recruiting a pharmacy to the area, expanding opportunities for minority and female-owned businesses overall, expanding the Bronco Square Farmers Market. So it went away during COVID, and I don't believe there are plans to bring the farmers market back. But we've heard, at least from this working group, that should be a potential project or goal, is to make it even bigger and better, because it was an incubator for small businesses and it helped to bring fresh food to the area. The next would be creating commercial design guidelines to ensure quality development, so that whatever comes in fits a high standard. Next idea would be establishing a beautification program for Murchison Road, and that might be through organization coordination of existing businesses, but really having a detailed strategy for that first impression, that beautification. The next would be evaluating the inventory of vacant buildings for potential reuse. People have brought up that some of the buildings that are available just wouldn't fit the needs of a business. We need to know what's out there in order to promote it. See what else we got. Establishing a business incubator space to help. So that'd be a physical location that could be a startup location for either more of a service or a front-facing commercial use, like a restaurant or a shop or something like that. I think, was that all of them? Yeah, so I think that's all 9. So take a few minutes here. You guys know the drill. Put these in order of priority. And again, we know they're all important, but we're really just trying to take your temperature on what you think is most critical to the success of the kind of the commercial environment in the community. So we'll give everybody another 2 or 3 minutes to vote on that one. And I believe there were a couple people that joined us since the last poll. So I'm going to put the link in the chat that'll allow you to join the poll and vote. Or you can also go to the website that's on the top there, menti.com, and put in that code if you'd like to vote with us. All right, so we have 11 people that voted so far. Where we've landed, the top, not a big surprise to me, would be establish or recruit a grocery. Number 2 would be evaluating and inventorying vacant buildings for potential reuse. That's interesting that came up so high. And then there's a tie for 3rd, which would be establish recruiting a bank or credit union and expanding. Oh, they're shuffling. Okay, 3rd is now create commercial design guidelines to ensure quality development. 3rd is now expanding. Oh man, people are voting fast and furious. I can't even keep up. All right, we'll just give it another minute. We got 15 votes in. It changed up a little bit on us. I think people were waiting to see what the results were before they voted. Okay, where we've landed currently is number 1, evaluating inventory vacant buildings for potential reuse. Jumped up ahead of the grocery. Number 2, establishing recruiting a grocery. Number 3 would be establishing a beautification program for Murchison Road. Okay, so we have about 15 minutes. I would really like to get your thoughts and kind of a discussion on the results here. If anyone would like to jump in, especially those who haven't yet had a chance to share their thoughts.
I think first evaluating and inventory vacant buildings for potential use. I like that because I think it'll be more affordable than creating and building new spaces on Murchison Road. I think what we already have. I think if you can revamp those and rebuild those, like I've seen in other parts of town, I think that would mean a lot instead of just tearing down and building up.
That's a great point. Yeah, I didn't think about it from the affordability aspect in terms of starting a new business.
Just from my observation, I'm surprised that the pharmacy, the banking, and the I see the grocery store is pretty high, but in my discussion with my students about ideal communities, those are the things that people need the most. They need to have access, and given what I know about the Murchison Road corridor, you have a lot of older homeowners that live on that corridor, and having to go across town to pick up medications and those kinds of things, I'm quite sure it would be more ideal to have it in the communities. When you look at the neighborhoods that are being built around the city, there are usually 3 things that are primary for those communities: a pharmacy, a grocery store, and some sort of banking or commercial institution in terms of financial viabilities. So I'm saying in terms of Murchison Road, I'm a bit stunned that those, particularly the banking and the pharmacy, is kind of low. But I think if it was higher, because again, those are things that people need in the community. No one wants to go 10 miles to go pick up medication. And we know with the pharmacies of today, they not only have medications, but they also have all these other little things that you need just to run in and pick up and what have you. So that was surprising.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Terry.
I'll agree with Dr. Corbin. I mean, living in the community, because what you see a lot from the actual poll are from a business perspective and not so much from a residential perspective. And living in Broadale, these are the things that why people don't want to come live there, because every community, you want to be able to get to a grocery store. I mean, if I want to go to Harris Teeter or something like that, I'm going to have to drive 15 minutes, or the nearest food line is at least 10 minutes. Or if I have guests over and I forget bread, then I'm going to have to drive so far to go get it. I mean, you know, it's really, it can be a nuisance, you know, coming from Raleigh, everything is right there at my touch. So a lot of people are kids that are heirs to these properties. They don't want to move back to the community because there's nothing in the community. If you want to drive people in the community, it has to be just as Dr. Corbin was specifying, you have to make it advantageous to want to live there. So it's good to have all the extra businesses and that type of thing. But when we got, what is it, the deli and Binky's, it was like, wow, this is awesome. It's somewhere to eat other than McDonald's or, you know, that kind of thing. So we have to, if we want to live differently, we have to think differently about how you want people to come into a neighborhood. Thanks,
Great
Dr.
point.
Corbin, for that.
And just to
I wanted to,
piggyback.
I'm sorry, I can't see because I'm driving, so I apologize for over speaking.
Yeah, Angela, you can go next, and then we'll go to John Nat after that.
Okay, I wanted to explain and I love that you mentioned as heirs of the community, being in healthcare, and specifically I'm focusing on Black healthcare in our community. The reason why I chose grocery store first and pharmacy, last, and farmers market is with the heirs that we're hoping that are, going to be inheriting these properties and keeping them in the families. When we move more to a healthier community, what you invest in is where you will have the most focus. And if we're focusing on farmers markets and grocery stores, we're hoping to reduce the needs of pharmacies. I know the current need, and I guess I'm thinking short-term and long-term of the community. I've been in and around the community for 52 years as well. And so just thinking where we came from, where we currently are, and where we're going. So that was my reason for having pharmacy at the bottom, wanting it there, but not wanting the focus if we can work on having healthier foods in the community. But I agree about the location of grocery stores. You want to be able to go quickly and not drive more than a couple of minutes to have access to healthy food choices.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Johnette, do you want to go next?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Excuse me for joining the party late. I wanted to just piggyback off of Terry's comments, as well as to point out that we've had some community meetings, and in those meetings, pharmacy, the bank, and the grocery stores were always, as Adam just said, the big three that we heard from the community. So I, like Mario, sort of thought, if you get the grocery store, the pharmacy will sort of come with it. But however, I just moved back to North Carolina from Virginia after being away for about 25 years. And to come back to Murchison Road and to see how it looks so different from when I was a little girl. And, and what we need to do to sort of revitalize that area is just going to, really turn the whole concept of what Murchison Road stands for around. So these are some good suggestions and very good input from all of you, and we appreciate it. I'm one of the ambassadors, so when I get on these meetings, I get a little close to my heart, because it's like, okay, what can we do to move Murchison Road forward, to be the pipeline that it's always been for Fayetteville? Because if you come to Fayetteville, you got to come down Murchison Road at some point in time if you're trying to get to anywhere in the city. But we've got some things to do, and we need to be focused on that. And I think we're getting some good feedback from you guys here today. Now with I was going to say something else, but it left me. I'm 52, so forgive me. So I may come back to it.
All right. Sounds good. Let's go next to Andrea and then Mario. Andrea?
Yes, hi, everybody. I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the comments that we have on the chat. So Navia was saying that business incubator space will be great for the aspiring entrepreneurs coming out from E.E. Smith High School and FSU, because maybe having more space on campus will be more efficient and affordable. He says that he loves the ideas, and especially the idea of a business incubator, and that it may coincide with expanded opportunities for minorities and female business owners. And it can be like an all-in-one facility or foundation site. And then we have a lot of agreement about on the chat about the grocery stores and the bank and the pharmacy. And we have another comment from Navia saying that as a student, what Methodist has accomplished on Ramsey Road is incomparable to what FSU has in terms of multiple quality grocery stores, restaurants, pharmacies, and banks. And then another comment from Mario is that he just assumed that there was already a pharmacy in the grocery. So yes, let's keep the conversation going. Thank you very much.
Thanks for relaying that. Let's go next. I saw Mario's hand. Yeah, let's go to Mario. You had your hand up, and then there's a few more people as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of pitch that incubator space a little bit more. I really like the experience that, so I'm kind of thumbing through the names here, that Terry was describing, because I kind of did the same thing. I went off to college, saw a lot of great things in the Triangle. I can't wait to see them happen in Fayetteville. And the incubator spaces in downtown Chapel Hill were a place where, entrepreneurs and established business folks would essentially work as a co-working space. But on top of that, the business school at UNC paid for space there for the students to basically work alongside actual professionals, whether it was in coding or whether it was in business development or stock trading or whatever it was. And they would pair you up with somebody who was at that co-working space or at that incubator space. And I could just see something similar happening with FSU and having an incubator space in the Murchison Road area, where you have people, and this is where I will be interested in, people from outside the community coming in, taking advantage of a really, well-developed space to work on their next project, to work on their next business. And, just a lot of magic happens when you're kind of like in a co-working space, like these incubators usually are. And there's the opportunity that kind of comes with kind of collaboration with FSU to funnel their students out to be the first ones sort of, getting that next internship or getting that next idea or getting that next job, because it's all kind of happening all in one big, beautiful building. So, when we're talking about taking, Murchison Road to the next level, I think, that could be the thing that, the heirs of this area, as Terry mentioned, can kind of find a lot of opportunities. So that's kind of why that's so high on my list.
Thank you, Mario. I want to go over to Mr. Garrett next. He's had his hand up for a few minutes.
Yes, I would like to kind of piggyback off what Terry said. I've been in the community all my life. I've been staying on Murchison Road. I'm 52 years old. I never left there since. And I'm active in the neighborhood every day. My mother was a business owner on the Murchison Road. There's other family members, and I had business on there as well. I'm concerned about where I really want to see a new grocery store in the area, as far as, because everyone in the neighborhood, that's what you would hear them say every day. I hear this every day. I wish we had a grocery store. I wish we had some other things like the pharmacy. I hear this daily. So, when you interact in the neighborhood, a lot you can find out what the neighborhood need. We can make suggestions, but it's best to interact in the community to see what the residents want as well. I also grew up in Broad Hill. I've been there all my life. So I'm in the neighborhood every day, active to hear the complaints of what's there and what's not there as we speak now. So I think it'll be a good thing, or we at least try to, where right now I'm dealing with some other business owners in the community right now as we going around checking to see the needs of what everyone is complaining about and what they need to try to make the Murchison Road grow. Now, I also grew up when there was grocery stores on the Merc. It was business all the way from Fellas, would start from Dick's area all the way up to about Fort Bragg on both sides of the Murchison Road, with restaurants and everything. So yes, I would like to see it kind of get back to where it was when we was growing up, because there was opportunities out there for the younger folks. It was opportunities out there for business owners to help people in the community. So I would like to kind of see us draw back in that area.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. We have a few more hands up. Let me go to Sherry next, please.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity. I really feel what Douglas and Terry are saying, and even Mario. My thought process as being in real estate is that evaluating vacant buildings and a beautification program really work hand in hand. And it speaks to what everybody has just spoken about, is and Terry said it so eloquently, changing the perception of the Murchison Road corridor. And it's no longer, and Dr. Collins said, not calling it the Merc, but that if you are beautifying these buildings and repurposing them, encouraging small entrepreneurial development, and if they can have some financial assistance in that and make it more affordable, you can see a pharmacy come into a building that's been vacant for 10 years. And I think you need to expand the thought of the vacant buildings also to existing business owners that are just struggling to keep the door open, especially through all of what we've been through the last couple of years, and helping establish a program to help them get their buildings up to code, and maybe getting that storefront beautified. And those, I think that all works hand in hand and feeds into changing that look and perception of the corridor. If you're able to do that stuff and people feel safe to bring their business, because at the end of the day, it's difficult to establish a grocery store if you don't feel safe in that community. And I think that all works absolutely together, and you can't think of them independently from each other.
That's a great point. Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is that okay? You mentioned that you wanted to make people feel safe about bringing their business. Can you expand on what you mean with safe? Are you talking about crime? Are you talking about like that their investment is actually going to be profitable? Just for context.
Yes, I think those are things that you can look at together. Okay. Having been part of or listening to the prior meeting, and a lot of the people from the neighborhood that listed their concerns, walkability to pharmacy, grocery stores, and then safety, community safety, was some of the top priorities that came out of those conversations. So that is a piece, and it's part of the perception problem, I think, also. And yes, I mean, financially, you want to be able, if you want to make an investment in something, you want to make sure that you're going to be profitable and successful in that area.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go over to Wesley Fountain next, please.
Thank you. So I'm going to touch on a couple of things here on the survey, as well as some of the things that were mentioned. So a couple of months ago, actually, we announced that we're opening an innovation and entrepreneurship center in Bronco Square. If you're familiar with Bronco Square and where the set aside building that says bookstore is going to be in that location, about 6,500 square feet. And so that's going to address some of the things that you all were talking about with the establishing the business incubator, because that's pretty much what it's going to be in essence. So, but it's going to have two main priorities. One of them is that traditional business incubators. It's in partnership or it's going to be run by our faculty over in the College of Business. And it's going to go through the traditional route of helping, startup businesses or established businesses grow. The other main pillar is building capacity for some of these small businesses. So as I mentioned earlier, with the state budget, the county as a whole got over $400 million, and a lot of that money has to be spent by 2026. We here at FSU got about $164 million, and we have to spend ours by 2025. And most of it is in capital projects. So we have 3 big capital buildings going up, and then some R&R. And so one of the things that the county, the city, and even us as a university have struggled with is identifying some of those local, whether they be women-owned, minority business, or just local in general, to fill some of those contracts. Many of them don't have the capacity to do that. And then there are some who may or may not have capacity, but do not know what the processes are to even identify projects when they're out for bid, or how to submit for those bids. And so that's going to be the other side of that entrepreneurship center, is going through that whole process of reading the bids, applying to the bid or responding to the bids, the RFPs, things like that, but helping these small businesses build their capacity so they can be either subprimes or maybe even have a couple of prime contractors come out of this entrepreneurship center. And I probably didn't do a description very much justice because I'm kind of working on the side of this, but we have faculty that are really keen with what's going on there. The other thing is we talked a little bit about the farmers market. And I think Adam mentioned earlier that it kind of went away when COVID started. And that was ran through my office as well. And part of it, a lot of it was COVID, but some of it was just, there's a small number of farmers in this area. One of the things that was a grant requirement when we first established the farmers market was that there was I believe it was a 100-mile radius of who we would source to come to the farmers market. We started out really strong. We had about 5 farmers that would come out consistently, and then that kind of dwindled away over the years. I think we started in like 2015. And right before COVID, we only had 2 farmers, and one of them, throughout COVID, I believe sold their farm or just got out of it. I don't think that's something that has to go away. I believe we could explore that again and try to reestablish that. But again, the main issue is the bringing those farmers in and having them be a part of it. We didn't want it to turn into something that became more of a craft kind of market as opposed to what the core reason for us establishing it was, which was the farmers market and bringing the fresh food to the area.
Thank you, Wesley.
Yeah, thanks for the insight on that. Really appreciate it. We're a couple minutes over, but I see a couple more hands up, so I just want to make sure everybody gets a chance to jump in. So let's go over to Elaine next, please.
Hi, thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, then. Well, we're talking about the inventory. As a business owner, that would be a major concern of mine, just to relocate my business to the Murchison Road area, is to know where the vacant properties are and how that we can establish that. If you're going to bring business owners there to help establish that area, I think that is something that we need to know. I've been looking and I'm looking for acreage to bring my business there. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. So it's not just vacant buildings, it's vacant property as well, is what I'm hearing from you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sherry, did you want to go next?
I spoke. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I see your hand up, so I just want to make sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got to go put it down.
No problem. Okay, let's go over to Dino.
Get myself off mute here. So I rated the grocery store and the bank lower than most. And the reason why is because the way the question was worded. If the question would have asked, what's the most pressing need? Groceries number 1. Mm-hmm. But the question is following commercial development strategy. So which strategies should be a priority? So I think definitely the one that ended up number 1, which is evaluating inventory, is important. And I rated higher than most let me grab my spectacles here. Establishing the incubator space, I think, is important. Expanding the farmers market is important. These are things, as we talked about with the housing earlier, if we think of a sequence of events, what can we do immediately to have the biggest impact? So the farmers market's already there. It can easily be expanded. With my background in commercial real estate, there's always a question, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Mm-hmm. So recruiting a grocery store or recruiting a pharmacy or recruiting a bank is like a needle in a haystack. It's not impossible, but it's not the normal way. These companies typically have professionals on staff and they do their own demographic reports and their own research. And when they contact a broker like myself, they tell me where they want to locate typically. Now, every once in a while, you do have folks coming from out of town or out of state that ask you about certain areas. But for the most part, they've already done their research and they know where they want to be. They'll take any address, and it's easy now. The world is small with Google Earth and all of this research material and data at our fingertips with the World Wide Web. So they can anybody can drop a point on any address and do a half mile, 1 mile, 3 mile radius and get demographic information. And that doesn't just mean average household income, which is a factor that many look at, but they look at daytime population. FSU helps with that. With the university being there Monday through Friday, normal business hours, 9 to 5, it greatly increases the daytime population of the area. But it's factors like that that most companies look for. I asked the question earlier, there was the most recent grocery store was the Walmart neighborhood store on the corner of Pamela, the 401 bypass, and Highway 210 Murchison Road, and it closed. So do we know why it closed? Now, I wasn't intimately involved with that group or that business, so I can't speak on specifically why that business closed, but I can speak to other businesses that were there that I do know more intimately. One is a site right across the street where the Circle K is now. There was a business there for decades and it closed. And when I queried them why, the business was good, but they had issues with theft, not just robberies, which did happen, but internal theft. So, they had supplies going out the back door, and that had a negative impact on their bottom line. So typically when businesses decide to come to an area or decide to leave an area, it's all about if they think they're going to be successful and make money. And businesses talk by the investment they're willing to make, whether that's a mom and pop business or whether it's a corporation. So a mom and pop entrepreneur or business owner, they're going to locate or not locate on Murchison Road or any other area in the city based on if they feel they can provide a service and a product to the community that's in demand, and if they can be successful there. So I think expanding incubator space and programs, I think one of the things I rated higher was for minority owned and women businesses. The easier we make it for those mom and pop businesses, especially startups that are just getting into business, which is exactly what the incubator space is for, the easier we make it for them, the less obstacles we have for them, the easier it's going to be. But definitely we need to have an inventory of what's available. And then I think partnerships with Fayetteville State, with the county and the city, or a combination thereof, to have these programs to help new business. And I think SEED probably helps with women and minority owned business. Anything we do to help these people out, at least get started, is going to help that. And as more businesses locate to Murchison Road, the bank is going to come. Pharmacy is one that I'm actually kind of surprised that there's not one there, because I think there is a aging segment of the population that lives around there in Seabrook and Broadell subdivisions. So I would think, as the community ages, we all typically need more pharmaceuticals, more prescriptions. So that's one which obviously most grocery stores do have a pharmacy in them now. So, if you got one or the other, it would help. But I think the things that we can do easier immediately that would have the most immediate positive impact, that will create a domino effect where this other stuff will come. They will want to locate there instead of us trying to say, hey, please come here because there's a need. The need is there, but can they make money doing it? That's the obstacle.
Yeah, that's really great insight. Appreciate that.
My pleasure.
We are 11 minutes over our call. I see 2 more hands up. So let's go to Michelle and Johnette, and then we will close it out. And I do understand if you need to drop off the call. I want to let everybody know our next meeting is going to be March 8th. We're still deciding whether that'll be online or in person, but we will let everybody know. Michelle, do you want to go next?
Sure. I just wanted to add on to Dino's comment about businesses coming into the area. you have to keep in mind as well, many of these businesses do their research to include obtaining calls for service to a particular area. Prior to working in code enforcement, I worked in crime prevention unit with the Fayetteville PD for 15 years. So there's a lot of information being disseminated even before, the decision to relocate to a specific area is made. And of course, calls for service is something that is often explored, especially the top ones, robberies and violent crimes and such, burglaries. Those are things that are really key and important to relocation.
Thanks, Michelle. Johnette?
Hi, I just wanted to respond to Dino's his information in terms of about how commercial development sort of happens with folks taking a look at the area before they decide to come in, or if they even want to decide to come to the Murchison Road area or any area. I think it's a prime opportunity through this thing that we have going on here now that we could think outside of the box. If the regular grocery stores that we know, like a Food Line or Publix or what have you, aren't willing to come into our community to establish a business to service the residents of that area, how can we go about doing a community market that's actually owned and operated by the neighbors, by the community members? That's something that I've actually had the opportunity to see in works in New Jersey. And I know it's a guy in Houston, Texas, I think, that just recently changed a club into a community market. So there are opportunities that we can look at, just not having to depend on those, what I consider to be the box chains that don't want to come into our community because of all those other elements. There is a food desert that exists in the community, and we have to address it. I have an 86-year-old aunt that drives all the way out on Skybo, which is god awful at any time of day, but she's still driving, but it's just not a good idea. She can't get what she needs right here on Murchison Road because we've lost the food, a grocery establishment to help her to access those things that she needs. So we have to think a little bit out of the box, and I'm hoping that we get to that point with this RFP that's going to go in for the Community Choice Initiative. So that was all I wanted to add. And thank you, Adam, for facilitating today. You're doing an awesome job.
Thank you. And you all have been amazing. I feel like we could go all day on this conversation. We have so much expertise on the call here. And so thank you so much for helping us kind of flesh out the priorities. What we're going to be doing in March is taking these top level projects and really getting down into the weeds on them, starting to think about the action steps, the resources, and the partners that we can plug into these. So hopefully you can continue to join up with us. And if there's other people that you think would be interested in that conversation, please invite them. I'm going to put my email in the chat here. And if there's anything that comes up between now and then, just give us a holler. But thank you again, and have a great rest of your week, everyone. Appreciate you staying a little late, and we'll see y'all soon.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
Thank you. Y'all be safe.